Welcome to the Austrian resort of FIEBERBRUNN for the 5th episode of the Freeride World Tour. Tension is mounting as this is the last competition before the Tour Finals in Verbier. After a long and demanding season, only the top-ranked riders will make it to the finals and thus have a shot at the world title. For the remaining riders, their mere survival on the Freeride World Tour will be at stake here in FIEBERBRUNN. The 2011 Freeride World Tour is composed of 6 competitions held in the most prestigious destinations around the globe. Entering this 5th stop, both the snowboard and ski categories are wide open and anything could happen here today. The season started on the spectacular terrain of the Mont Blanc Massif in Chamonix. On his home turf, Frenchman Aurélien Ducrot set the bar and took an undisputed victory. From that point on, each competition crowned a different skier. Henrik Winstead won the 2nd stage in St-Moritz. Then it was young Frenchman Jérémy Prévost winning the Kirkwood contest. The following week, Samuel Antematen won in Russia and took the lead in the world ranking. The triumphant Swiss rider arrives here in FIEBERBRUNN wearing the golden bib. In the snowboard class, the scenario is almost identical. 3-time world champion Xavier Delarue impressed his peers with the first victory of the season in Chamonix, but he would surrender the crown in the 2nd stage to American Matt Annetz. The 3rd and 4th stops of the season saw the rise of Austrian Flo Orly. Winning the last 2 contests, he now leads the world rankings. Orly is in an ideal position now entering the 5th stage, the Big Mountain FIEBERBRUNN. This is the first time that Austria will host a stop on the Freeride World Tour Series. With its varied terrain and vast powder fields, FIEBERBRUNN is a premium destination for freeriders all across Europe. As riders begin their inspection of the face, it becomes clear that snow conditions are well under average, a situation that has plagued Europe all season. Riders will have to deal with extremely uneven snowpack and challenging conditions. On such terrain, they know their margin for error will be mighty thin. While some riders are looking for winning lines, others find their challenges elsewhere. Once considered a contender for the world title, Julien Lopez from France is now in the hot seat. He's sitting at 14th place overall with only 13 qualified riders going to Verbier. Today, his spot on the Freeride World Tour is seriously in jeopardy. No, my season really just hasn't begun well, and I put myself in a bad situation. I pushed it too hard in the earlier stops, and it just didn't work out. And indeed, Lopez has crashed repeatedly in recent competitions. This season has been a big disappointment for him so far, especially after a successful 2010 where Lopez impressed the Tour with his aggressive riding and was in contention for the world title. Well, I think I have the skills to ride well, so I guess it must have been something else that went wrong, likely my head. I realize I must have put too much pressure on myself. You can't forget, skiing is about having fun. Just probably lost the plot early in the season. So I'm looking at the scenario where I don't qualify for Verbier and maybe I'm even kicked off the tour next season. If tomorrow evening things haven't worked out well for me, I'll have a lot of regrets. Like a lot of others on the tour, I really think I have what it takes to be on the top step of the podium. But yeah, that's going to be really hard for me. Today's contest venue is the Wildsee-Loader. Despite difficult snow conditions, this face still offers plenty of options and 600 meters of descent for the riders. Under a beautiful bright sun, an enthusiastic crowd has gathered here to watch the show. And the first rider down the face today is completely at home here in front of his local crew. Mitch Telderer is one of Austria's top snowboarders and a serious contender for the championship this season. And there he goes, straight into the central couloir. Boy, snow cover definitely looks thin up there on the face, meaning we probably won't see too many big airs here today. Oh, Telderer nails a very nice double cliff drop here, taking advantage of a small pocket of snow. Lots of speed through the midsection. Oh, and now he approaches the bottom end of his run. Oh, a little mistake on that landing, but it shouldn't cost him too many points as he keeps his fluidity. One last jump, and Telderer is full throttle to the finish. Good run from the Austrian on a tricky mix of snow and ice. First down, first on the scoreboard, Telderer will now be keeping a close eye on his competition. Next up is Matthias Hounholder, another crowd favorite here not far from his home turf. Hounholder has had an average season so far and is suffering from an injured rib. But his determination is steeled, and he certainly does not want to disappoint here in Austria. There he goes over the big cliff. Very well landed, and Hounholder keeps his speed heading over to the right side of the face. And another nice cliff jump. Very good landing once again. Well, the snowpack sure is thin and hard, but as was pointed out by a few riders during inspection, at least you know what to expect, and there aren't any bad surprises. Hounholder is getting to the bottom now, holding his injured rib, but he knows he's laid down the goods here today. Well, despite my hurt ribs and all that, I gave it everything here today. I rode my run exactly like I wanted to. My dudes wrote "Hownie Go" in the snow, and that was cool. You know, it's so motivating to see something like that when you're up in the start gate. So for sure, I had some pressure too, but I always try to see things positive and to transfer pressure into something positive. So I think it really worked out well today. And we're back up to the top of the Wildsee loader now with France's Aurélien Ducrot, extremely focused in the start gate. The season has been a roller coaster for Ducrot. In St-Moritz, he crashed badly, landing on the rocks after a blind jump. Right after that, he couldn't stick his cliff jump in Kirkwood and scored no points in that contest either. In Sochi, Russia, Ducrot suffered a muscle injury right before the competition, but in spite of the pain of his torn quadriceps, Ducrot managed to pull off a second-place finish, putting him back into the race for the title. That's a very important run for Ducrot. He's still injured, but his fantastic performance in Russia has proven his focus to regain the world title that he won back in 2009. This Chamonix skier is headed straight to the left part of the face. His skiing looks good, and it's hard to imagine that he's still recovering from a torn leg muscle. He's now getting into the more difficult part of this face. There's hardly any snow on that traverse. Ducrot is visibly very cautious here. One nice jump and a good landing. And a mistake here. Looks as though he hit a rock with his ski and he's off balance. He's back on his feet though, but this will cost him a few points. Another cliff jump here. The landing's not perfect, and you can tell Ducrot has not recovered 100% of his leg power quite yet. And Ducrot reaches the bottom of the face now. His run was fluid enough, but it lacked the bigger airs required for a podium finish. Oh, of course, I wanted to take a simple line today. I didn't want to jump any big cliffs or take too much speed because I just don't have the power to hold on to it, so it's really frustrating. I had to choose a simpler line in Russia. I had to take a simpler line here as well. It's very difficult to be into it mentally, knowing that you're dialed, so, well, it's annoying. I didn't crash or anything today, but that's not the skiing I know how to do, so giving a run like this today is just hard mentally. The crowd is holding its breath for our next competitor, Stefan Hausel. He's the best Austrian free skier at the moment and looks extremely focused here in his home mountains. And he opts for the right side. That's where the best snow is today. Series of turns, and he hits the biggest cliff of the day, perfectly landed. One of the trickier aspects of the snow conditions today is that riders are taking a lot of speed on their landings. But that's no problem for Hausel. He sticks it perfectly. The Austrian points it at a smaller cliff now and lands perfectly once again. Boy, this is proving to be a flawless run. And the crowd goes crazy. Hausel knows that he's had a great run here today. He takes the lead over Houndholder, and we have two Austrians in the top two now. Next up is yet another Austrian, Max Zipser. He's a very talented snowboarder, but he's struggled to perform at the highest level so far this season. He traverses out of the gate along this very impressive ridge and launches straight onto the face below. I got a high strength feeling like a fever bomb. Zipser is aiming at the same double cliff that Telderer took earlier. Well, he's not as fluid as Telderer on his first cliff, but he nails it nonetheless and manages to keep his speed under control. Well done from the Austrian snowboarder. One last cliff jump here, and he's down to the finish. Very good performance for Zipser, and for sure, a crowd pleaser. All my friends are here. My family's here. I'm going to go over and visit them. They're just waiting right over there in the crowd. Man, it's a good feeling. And with Zipser's performance, we are realizing total Austrian domination in the event so far. Our next competitor is one of the veterans of the circuit. Englishman James Steniford has never quite shined at the highest level competitively, but he's been consistently scoring top 5 positions on the tour this year. He starts his run on the left side of the face. From what we've seen so far, this is probably not the best option since there are no major jumps and very limited snow in places. Nevertheless, Steniford manages to pull out a very fluid run on the left with a carefully selected line and earns a great score from the judges. René Barkered is a hot property in the ski market these days, and he's still in contention for the overall ranking this season. Well, the Swedes have the reputation to be excellent skiers on hard-packed snow, and we'll see if Barkered is up to the test today. And he's off to the left face as well, skiing fast among those rocks, but here comes a tricky part of his run. He's entering that section with caution, but then he cranks it up. Barkered is literally flying over the rocks. It seems that speed is definitely his best friend today. And still a lot of speed as he enters this final narrow couloir. No brakes at all. He's rushing down to the finish line. That is an amazing performance from the Swede.
It was fun. Gained a little bit too much speed in some sections, but I managed to hold it together. So I guess my plan on skiing a little bit slower and stable sort of turned into go as fast as possible and hold it together.
The overall leader, Flo Orley.
Once again, the collective tension rises as Flo Orley, Austrian snowboarder and current leader of the world ranking, steps into the start gate. Orley won the 2 previous events in Crystal Mountain, USA and in Sochi, Russia. He arrives here in FIEBERBRUNN full of confidence and eager to take a definitive advantage over the other riders. Orley has chosen an original line at the top, but it's leading him to that same mandatory traverse that's holding the little snowpack. A bit of hesitation here on these rocks, but he gets out of this tricky section unscathed. Oh, it's full speed now, but curiously, Orley does not go into the main central couloir and heads left into more open terrain. Well, that's an overall good performance, but Orley missed the chance to widen the gap with his opponents. Well, we've got really special snow conditions up here today. On the right side of the face, the snow got really soft in the sun. That was bad luck. I tried to get the most out of it, but you can't win every event. If there's one rider who simply must not fail today, it's Xavier Delarue. Tension is high for this 3-time world champion. After a spectacular victory in Chamonix, Delarue struggled to perform in the following competitions. In St. Moritz, he was caught off guard by some heavy slough and crashed. A few weeks later in Russia, he broke a binding and couldn't finish his run. So today, Delarue has no choice but to land a podium finish and save his chances for the overall title. He's been dominating the discipline of snowboarding for the past few seasons, and this is likely the first time he's been put in such a difficult situation. Delarue is entering the right side of the face. This is where the best runs have been scored so far today. He's taking the long traverse to get to the top of these cliffs, and it looks like we're going to see some big action for the Frenchman. And there he goes with a massive jump, and oh no, a big bail for Delarue. That is a massive crash, and this also means the loss of the world title for him. He will not be world champion again this year. Well, fortunately, he's unscathed and works his way down to the finish area. I had to jump a cliff. It was a pretty simple option, but a big cliff though. I didn't have the exact right angle on my jump, and I landed straight on a rock. Well, I really destroyed my board. With my last 2 results, it'll be impossible to win the title this year, and it's a pity, but well, that's the price to pay when I always want to be on top of my game, ride progressive lines, and it doesn't work every time. So that's it for now. It'll work better next year. This one crash brings 3 seasons of supremacy to a bitter end. Without a doubt, this marks a major turning point in the 2011 season. Our next competitor, on the other hand, is living a dream season. On his first year on the Freeride World Tour, Samuel Antematen is already wearing the golden bib. I'm a mountain guide, and I grew up in Zermatt, Switzerland, in a very sporty family. Over the last years, I went on a lot of expeditions together with my brother, and we had a lot of fun. When I was younger, I never was part of the ski team. I never raced. Free riding is the skiing discipline that I always preferred. I had the opportunity to join the Freeride World Tour thanks to a wild card. And 2 or 3 years ago, I dreamt about this, but now it's true. I could actually take the whole thing, which means, yeah, full throttle. Well, yeah, I mean, I've got to defend my position now, so at the moment I can only do worse as I reach to the top. So it'll be difficult to hold on to this, but my brother, he won the Skiing Mountaineering World Cup, and my other brother, Simon, he won the Ice Climbing World Cup, so for sure it'd be cool if I could win the Freeride World Cup now. And you can feel the enthusiasm emanating from the young Swiss rider. Antematen chooses the left part of the face. He is skiing fast and fluid on this top section. Antematten approaches the difficult section of this run, but it seems to be no problem for him, and he continues without hesitation. Here comes the second rocky traverse. And oh, here's a tumble for Antematten. Oh, he's back on his feet, but it's pretty much over for him already. He certainly won't make it to the podium with this mistake. One last cliff jump, and that'll be it for Antematten. It's really questionable whether he'll be wearing the golden bib after today. Torgrim Volle is from Norway. He'll be our next competitor today. He's one of the tour's audacious up-and-coming talents this season. He reached the podium in Samaritz earlier this winter, so he's easily one to watch today.
I came to the top section and I ran my ski through the snow, and it came loose. I hit a rock and I lost my ski in the sort of rugged section, so not quite as I had planned.
Trapped in the middle of the face with no skis, there's no way out for Torgrim Volle other than a helicopter ride. This is also the reason why competitors on the Freeride World Tour are asked to ride with their harnesses on, just in case an evacuation or a rescue is in the cards. Torgrim Volle may have lost his ski, but he earned himself a picturesque flight over the FIEBERBRUNN Valley in the process. One of the last competitors of the day is Henrik Winstedt from Sweden. Winstedt has had a good season so far, but he also knows he'll need a podium finish here in FIEBERBRUNN to make it to the finals in Verbier with a better chance at the overall title. Rocks or no rocks don't seem to make a difference for Winstedt. He is taking a lot of speed. Oh, and he's tumbling. That's pretty much the same mistake Antematten did before. Man, there must be something squirrely with the snowpack in this particular spot to fool two of the best skiers in the world. But that mistake will definitely keep Winstedt from the podium today. He's jumping into the last couloir, and oh, another fall here. Winstedt is clearly not at his best in the VLC loader.
The same for every contest, I'm here to win every contest. And you need to ski good and you need to have good luck. Today I ski well and I had bad luck. Right now I can't really tell that if I have a shot on the overall or not. But it won't change anything for the next contest in Verbier because I'm still going to go for the win. Then we'll see how far that goes.
Our last competitor of the day is Julian Lopez, who's close to losing his spot amongst the world's elite riders on the Freeride World Tour, unless he can pull it off here today. A bit of hesitation in this section, but in the end, that's a nice cliff jump. Oh, Lopez wraps it up with a bottom couloir, but skis conservatively today. Lopez did not open up the throttle in this run, and his score will unfortunately not be sufficient to secure him a spot on the tour for next year. But on the other hand, this also means a first major victory for Stefan Hausel. And what better than a victory at home here in Austria?
Yeah,
this is my first win at the Freeride World Tour, and even better, it's on my home ground here in FIEBERBRUNN. I also took the lead in the overall ranking, so there's only one of 6 events to go, and now it's all in my hands. Man, it's really unbelievable. Right after Hausel is Barkered, back to his best level, and Houndholder in a heroic 3rd place despite a broken rib. In the snowboard category, Mitch Telderer takes the day. What a fantastic victory here in FIEBERBRUNN to win at home in Austria, with Stefan winning for the skiers, Max taking 2nd behind me, Houney in 3rd in the skiers. It's incredible. On their home mountains, the Austrians have dominated, with Telderer and Zipser taking the top spots. Stenneford is 3rd, and Delarue ends dead last after his big crash. And on to the overall ranking now, a total shakedown, with Hausel taking the lead, immediately followed by Antematten and Aurelien Ducrot. Barkered and Winstedt are not far behind, still in contention for the title. In the snowboard class, Austrians Orly and Telderer are now ahead of the pack by 1,000 points. Delarue is still in 3rd position, but too far behind to retain a shot at the title. In the next episode, follow the Freeride World Tour and watch the new world champions crowned at the legendary Verbier Extreme in Switzerland on the frightening Bec de Ross. Xavier Delarue will not become world champion for the 4th time, and it will all come down to Flo Orley or Mitch Telderer. In a ski category, there will be no less than 5 riders pushing for the title. Aurélien Ducrot, Henrik Winstedt, René Barkerid, Stefan Hausel from Austria, and finally Samuel Antematen. The battle will be intense. We'll see you next week.